Hey, welcome to Texas Tuesday Live. I'm Dana Pollard and I'm here with my team. And we have a couple on today. We have Kevin and Kay. And we just wanted to share a little bit about moving to Texas and help answer your questions. So if you have any questions about moving to Texas, put them in the comments below and we are happy to answer. And we just wanted to give a quick market update for we're in the fall, headed into the winter. And what are you guys feeling out there right now? Like, is it super busy? Is it still competitive? Multiple offers? Share a little bit on that.
These are the questions that we get pretty much every day from our clients, whether they've closed or they're just starting the process of how is the market? It's a super common question and it's always revolving answer. It changes every month. So that's why we want to bring you guys up to date. Now we're going into October, almost Halloween. Can you believe it? And
Right.
Things are still moving fast. So all price points. We even, Robert just showed a home the other day in South Lake where they had, I think, 50 showings and 20 plus offers.
Oh my gosh.
So, I mean, we are going full speed into the holidays, which is normally when we have a big drawback.
Mm-hmm.
So setting those expectations up front, we're not expecting a big slowdown just because we're so far behind still also with new construction.
And inventory.
Yes, we're having big delays in new construction. I know some clients of ours are being a month or two delayed or more on new construction just with some material shortages. So if you are thinking of new construction, consider that also that what used to take 6, 8, 10 months, add about 2 to 4 more months on that timeline. Now things are starting to get better, but builders are cracking down. They're not allowing contingencies, some of them, on like a sale contingency of their home to be able to go under contract. So we're seeing some different challenges in the new construction market that we don't typically see, especially as we go into what would be a cooler time in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
We're still experiencing the heat.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that I think that we were seeing a little bit of a slowdown, just slightly, where builders started catching up just a little bit. Over the past week or so, I've seen it pick up again. And I think that it's just a surplus of buyers. I also do think it's the time of year right before the holidays. We do see a little bit of a spike in traditional seasons. But overall, I would say that if you're looking in some of these more popular areas like Frisco, Plano, Prosper, McKinney, South Lake, all of those areas that are just much more in high demand, I think that you are going to still see that multiple offer situation running to having to offer much higher prices versus some other areas that you might see some homes that are sitting a little bit longer just because they're not as popular.
Yeah. So my husband and I have been shopping for an investment property. And so I kind of have a feel, and it's on the lower price point, right?
Yeah.
So we were looking for an investment under $350,000. And the first week we started looking, I had noticed that several homes had been on the market more than a week. And then when we went to go put an offer in, then suddenly there's multiple offers, of course. I don't know why that works. But what's interesting is, so we did secure a contract on a home and we only went, we went over $12,000 asking. So it was listed at $310,000. We put in $322,000 and got it, which I say that though, because a year ago, you were having to put that offer in $30,000.
Yeah.
$40,000, $50,000 above asking. So to be we were $12,000 above asking and still got the deal, which is good news for a lower price point.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And so a year ago, there were so many investors out there scooping up those lower price points that no one else had a chance. So I feel like if you're looking, this is a good time to buy in that it's pulled back slightly, but is still competitive and that it's still a good investment.
I like to say
because next year it's going to be higher.
I like to say we're in a competitive market instead of haywire, like we were this summer.
That's a good way to put it. Competitive, but not haywire.
And to compare those two, in case you're not already in the market right now, back in the summer, we were seeing 10 to sometimes even 30 offers, which is bonkers. Nowadays, we're seeing maybe 3 to 7, 5 commonly. So It's still competitive, but gives you a lot better chance. And I
Yeah.
am expecting again to pick up next summer,
I do too,
especially
in
as
the
all of these
spring,
people
May.
who would normally be buying had to get pushed into a 12-month apartment lease. Even
Oh,
apartments are a
true.
challenge to find right now. So all of those people with their leases expiring who have stacked up a little bit more cash now are going to be in the market again next summer as people continue moving here.
That's what I was going to say, is that the market has cooled down a little bit. So we're not seeing that insane market that we were seeing all spring and all summer, where it was just nonstop. You had to do full appraisal waivers. You weren't going to get into a home without over asking, or offering over asking. So I do think that it has slowed down ever so slightly. I don't like to use the word slowed down because I don't think that that's actually accurate, but I do think that it is starting to stabilize just a little bit,
Yeah.
but I don't expect it to stay that way. I do agree with Kevin in the fact that, hey, come spring, come those busier seasons, what we normally see in real estate, I do think that it's going to pick up again, and we might get into another frenzy.
So a couple things that are different right now is in the summer, we were seeing homes not really make it past a weekend or a week. Nowadays, I'm seeing some that make it 2 weeks, maybe even a month, but not much past a month unless the home is truly overpriced. So just about anything that's under 300,000 is going to be multiple offers about that first weekend. Or like Dana was saying, and it's such a coincidence how something might sit on the market for a week with no offers. And then
Yeah.
the next week, it all of a sudden has 5 offers.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's also how the agent lists the property.
It's weird.
They may make it go active with showings not starting until the next weekend.
Mhm.
I'm seeing that sometimes. And then also, let's talk about the luxury market for a second.
Mhm.
You know, Robert and I and all of us are starting to see that in places like South Lake and West Lake, that people are listing their homes sometimes $300,000 to $500,000 over what the appraisal value would be worth or what our comps are telling us. And so we're finding that they're trying to establish maybe a new baseline to get into those cities just because of the areas.
Even in South Lake, they're doing that?
We are noticing some that
Well,
are
that is very
over.
interesting.
I have
in
to
the-
say the South Lake has always been proud of their homes, and they've always listed over.
Yes.
Like I had noticed even 2 years ago, they were listing homes about $100,000 what the market comps were showing. And so, but now you're saying
Yeah.
300,000.
So let's give an example. There's one that was listed in South Lake for $3.5 million. It was on the market for about 45, 50 days, and they had a price reduction down to 3.35. So I ran the comps on this just because I was curious on why it's not selling, and I came about maybe 2.7-ish.
Okay.
Once they had that price reduction down to 3.35, it went under contract within the first weekend of that price reduction.
And
Okay.
that's still quite a hefty jump from
Yeah.
what we can find comp wise. So I do think in the luxury market, it works a little bit differently, where you are going to see homes with inflated prices. So do expect that even if you don't have an appraisal waiver, you may be having to come out a little bit more
Okay.
cash.
So share what an appraisal waiver is.
Yes. So an appraisal waiver is something that we saw very commonly over the span of 2021, and it became a very familiar thing to a lot of our buyers. What an appraisal waiver is it is waiving your right to terminate a contract based on what the appraisal value comes back at. So an appraisal is one person's opinion on the value of the home. The actual value of a home is really just based on what a seller is willing to sell for it and what a buyer is willing to pay for it. So you really do determine the value of the home that you purchase. The appraisal comes back based on comps that have been for, I believe, 6 months is the mark.
Yeah, 6 months.
At the most of homes that have sold in that community or around that community that would be a comparable home to what you are purchasing. Based on what the appraiser brings that value back at, appraisal waiver was saying that, hey, if your home, if you went under contract purchasing a home at $550,000, but the appraisal only came back at $500,000, if you have a full appraisal waiver signed, that means that you would be responsible to come up with the extra $50,000 in cash.
Yeah. So even though values they're all over what it's valued for one buyer to the next buyer. We all have different values for what we're willing to pay for a home. But the lender, if you have a lender, then they're only willing to pay up to a certain percentage of what they deem is valuable, which is why they hire a professional appraiser But again, I like what you said. It's one man's professional opinion of value. We have our professional opinion of value. So if it comes up short, then the buyer usually, unless they have 20% down or more, it doesn't always affect you, but that's what an appraisal waiver is. I did see, we listed a home this weekend, and I did see they checked full appraisal waivers, so they're not completely gone.
Yeah.
But we don't see it on every single offer like we used to. Like it used to be required 6 months ago to have an appraisal waiver. And I had, option period. The option period gives us the right to terminate the contract for any reason within a certain amount of time. So we buy the right, we buy time, and I'm seeing that they are getting back in the contract. Meaning, I don't know if I'm saying this right. So most of the offers that I'm receiving on my listings, they are having 3-4 day option periods again.
Yes.
Instead of completely
I try
saying
not
no.
to go over 5. And I'll try
Yeah.
to stick to about $100 a day too.
Yeah,
So-
I don't ever recommend buying a home without an option period because you need to get an inspection done. I'm just so pro inspection. You don't know what you're getting until you get an inspection done. So on the offers that we're putting in, I'm like, I don't care if they don't take my option. I don't care.
Only time I feel comfortable not doing that is if it's almost a brand new construction
I
or
agree.
2020.
I agree.
It's like
I
a
agree.
year
If
old.
it's a newer home, then I would have felt more comfortable.
That's what I would say. It's like anything like 2017 or newer is where I'm like, hey, you can possibly get away with not having an option period. There's a lot of data that goes behind that, but it's never guaranteed. It's still, even in new construction, you just never know. So regardless of the situation, as your agent, we're always going to recommend you doing an option period. Ultimately, it is your choice, but we will go over all of the options with you.
Yeah, we'll go over all the options. All right, guys, any final thoughts? Or do y'all have any questions? I say, a couple of people said, hi, good morning, Hot Wheels.
So I think the option period is unique to Texas. So I know a lot of you guys aren't familiar with that when you start. So just to reiterate, that is typically when we get our inspection done. It's like buying a window to have our inspector to be able to get in there that we can then renegotiate if there's something that comes up in that inspection report, or we can hop out of that if we can't agree with the seller.
Yeah.
On those repairs. So,
very good. Thank you.
Those appraisers that we were talking about, just to clarify, they are licensed appraisers through the state of Texas, just like we're licensed realtors. So it's not just some Joe Schmo that the lender company hired.
Yes. Sorry, I should have been more
But
clear on that.
to set expectations for appraisal waivers, 1 out of 12 closings that I've had this year has met value. All of the other deals that I've closed this year, we have had to cover in a gap in that appraisal.
Really?
So
Are you kidding me?
That is crazy.
serious.
I have
That's
had
crazy.
success with new construction meeting appraisal. So
Yes.
I was surprised with that. I thought that because of such inflated pricing in the new construction world, we were going to expect to see appraisals coming back a little bit short. I think that the appraisers are understanding what new construction is going through with the lumber prices going up and such. So I do think that they're taking that under consideration. So if you are in new construction, I have had success with that, but we also have had some cases where they didn't come back at appraisal. So
Okay. And I feel like the second half of the year, they've been catching up. It's like
Yeah.
the
Been getting better.
appraisers have started.
When we
Catching
very
up.
initially had that spike this
Oh,
summer,
that's when it
that
was
was
we were
crazy.
a huge gap. But like Kay was saying, new construction is a great opportunity to get instant equity
Yeah.
in your home that we're not seeing as much of a gap, but typically just takes a little bit more of a timeline to build that equity
Yeah,
as we
to
build the
build it.
home.
yes.
Okay, well, very good. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. You can still put comments in the comments section or questions. And if you haven't yet, fill out the Dream Home questionnaire in the link below, and we'll get you hooked up with a Zoom call with one of our agents, and you can ask them anything you want. All right, thanks, y'all, and have a great day.